Hello and welcome to our second podcast episode. Today we're discussing the importance of the patient-practitioner relationship. Elizabeth, thanks so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
When it comes to healthcare, there's a lot of different systems to navigate. There's a lot that we don't really learn in school about how to deal with practitioners and how to get the most out of our consultations with the various healthcare professionals that we see in our lives. And I was just wondering if you could explain to us a little bit about what you think is important when it comes to a patient going and seeing that practitioner for the first time.
I think be prepared, if they've got past blood tests, if they've got past scans, if they've had any reports written up about them, bring them along so that the practitioner has got everything in front of them and they can make the most out of the situation. It's important that no matter who we see, that we have a clear understanding of what we want from the consultation. Maybe write down some questions before we get there, know a bit of their history, have done a bit of our research of, what's the person's limitations that we're seeing. Don't expect everything from this one person. So if they're a specialist, they're specialised in that particular area. So if you turn up at a first consultation and you don't know very much about what particular operation you might have had and what it was for and, your history, do you have anything particular in the family like thalassemia, hemochromatosis that you might know about that might really help that practitioner in maybe giving particular vitamins or not giving particular vitamins, like you wouldn't give iron to someone who's got a hemochromatosis gene. Things like that is going to help them and speed up the healing process and the discovery process.
Right, but like hemochromatosis, I guess I don't even know what that means. A lot of people wouldn't know what they necessarily have, or even if they've been told, maybe they've forgotten. So what would you suggest? Like they go to their medical practice and get their records, or should they be bringing along that much to a first consult, or is it sort of on the practitioner to talk them through that?
Not necessarily go to a huge extreme to go and get like medical records from birth. It's none of that sort of stuff. Nothing like that. It's more often with hemochromatosis, for example, or thalassemia. If it's in the family, usually people will know about it.
Okay, yeah.
Usually because it can cause liver damage to take iron in that situation. But actually, a lot of people are walking around and don't even know that they've got it. Okay, so that's fine. Like that will be part of the process of discovery. So they'll present themselves a certain way, and through the process of blood tests and clues, the practitioner may discover this in that process. But it's just that if they do know that stuff, to make sure that they tell the practitioner. If they know they're allergic to certain things like penicillin, they need to tell people that, so that the practitioner's got just a really good start to knowing how to help this patient get better.
Right, so do you think that actually contributes to, I mean, this is a bit controversial, but how well a patient gets looked after?
Definitely. If a patient knows that they've got a history of autoimmune diseases in the family, then as they might have the onset, but it's early days, but they're feeling quite tired and quite unwell and maybe a bit achy, the person might end up, that's treating them, might go on a total hunt or down a track of doing a whole heap of other sort of tests, or using maybe some because a lot of us feel pain from time to time, right? And a lot of us feel tired from time to time. But if we know that there's a history or a strong history, say of rheumatoid arthritis in the family, or scleroderma, or some or lupus, then you're more likely to look at, okay, let's make sure this isn't because of that first. It's going to be faster. We'd sort of go, okay, let's have a look. Is there any autoimmune triggers happening first? And then if that's not the case via a blood test, say for instance, then we would go down okay, then this is probably just let's look at how how you're sitting at work. What sort of activities are you doing that could be exacerbating this? Or, maybe have you been exposed to glandular fever lately, and go down that road after we look at, or maybe even at the same time in the same blood test, we would ask for more things. So yeah, it's more the fact that it just helps the practitioner quicken the way that they get to know what's going on here. And it's not just, a lot of the time patients will come to me and say, I've spent the last 5 years going from one person to another person to another person. And, people have gone down a certain trail where it's, and the practitioners that they've chosen as well. So they might sort of think, oh, look, I had a lot of aches and pains. And they've gone through, say, for instance, a chiropractor or for a long period of time, and they feel better as a relief soon after. But then it's chronic. It's becoming something that's going on and on and on. And then, we've performed a simple blood test and found out they had rheumatoid arthritis. And they could have been treated a lot earlier for that. If they just would have
gone to the GP,
yeah. And maybe had a look at, or another practitioner that maybe is, more detailed in looking at that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just unfortunate. People, or sometimes things are happening at the same time. So, for instance, someone might be menopausing. And so as a result, they're thinking, oh, I'm feeling like this because I'm going through menopause. It must be because of that. But actually, at particular times of your life, and menopause is one of them, if there were things that were underlying, all of a sudden they can be raised. And so they might be going through rheumatoid arthritis onset as well at the same time as menopause. And they're thinking it's because of menopause. Yeah, and they're not sort of investigating properly. They're sort of thinking, oh, yeah, that's in that big basket of lots of symptoms. But they're not thinking, well, hang on, maybe I should just go and talk to somebody and see, is it because of this, or is there a few things happening at the same time?
Well, I guess that's a problem with self-diagnosis as well. Sort of, you need to be aware enough of your body to go and seek help, but you don't want to think that you're aware enough to just kind of manage it yourself.
Oh, 100%. And the other way too, people go to Dr. Google and then they think that they have everything. And then
I've done that.
Oh, 100%. And I have people going to, like, they come to me and they've seen 15 different practitioners because they really want to get to the bottom of something, and they're thinking that the practitioner's saying, no, I don't think it's actually this, and we've run some blood tests not showing that. They might be thinking, no, but I know that there's something else happening. And the problem with people in general is that we are individuals and not one thing fits all.
Yeah.
So in doing that one diagnosis, you might have headaches, and that could be from a structural problem, it could be from a bad pillow, it could be because you sleep on your tummy, it could be because you're having things that you're allergic to, and that's one of the symptoms. It could be a magnesium deficiency, it could be lots
have an inflammatory back pain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It could be a whole heap of things, and then they're not necessarily addressing that. They might be going down MRIs and thinking brain tumours and going down that path, or it could be that and they're going down another path where they're thinking, oh no, it's just my bad pillow, or it's because I have late nights. So that's why you really want to, just get a second or even third opinion of what actually might be happening here, and and whatever sort of you feel comfortable with, to go with that. But usually the body's giving us symptoms to cry out for things. And so it's not just, just because the symptom is common, it doesn't mean that it's not necessarily something that could be telling us another story, but also might be, something very simple. So just, really bad posture, or, you need to exercise and you're not. And, It's just more if you can just do some extra investigation, find someone that's clever, that you know how you have got a rapport with, that you trust, that you really can relate to, and you know they've got your best interest at heart. I think that's the main thing. You know when people are genuine and sincere and have your best interest at heart, and also someone who's humble enough as a practitioner to say, this is out of my comfort zone, I'm going to pass you on to or help somebody else. I need somebody else's help here to sort of investigate. I know it's not these things, but let's have a look if it's anything else. And then if it's not that, then we'll go down this other path and we'll have a look. And in the meantime, they sort of know how to calibrate everything.
Yeah, right. It sort of sounds like, just thinking about that Dr. Google thing, I definitely have done that where I've gone, looked something up and gone, oh my God, I'm like dying.
Oh, 100%. Definitely. I have patients like that all the time. And actually, when they come to me, it's really difficult because the more they've looked at Dr. Google and the more diseases that they have now in their mind, you spend a lot of the time trying to explain to them why it can't be a particular disease. And it's really obvious that it's not a particular disease, especially if you say, oh, no, that's someone that you have to be a woman to experience that. You're a man. Like it's that sort of, obvious that sometimes they're like, oh, so I don't need to worry about that, right? Or you just spend all this time talking about that instead of talking about all the things you need to get through in that particular initial consult or whatever. Or they're coming to me having a whole heap of vitamins, like, 10, 15 different vitamins because they've looked up Dr. Google or what they think is good for them. And they're self-diagnosing and then, they're not sort of they haven't got the background and the knowledge to know, okay, in these particular situations, this is what we do and this is what we don't do, obviously,
I thought it was really interesting when you said, with finding, looking for a practitioner and getting different opinions, but also finding a practitioner that is willing to say, this isn't my area of expertise. What are some other clues that we can look out for when it comes to finding, I guess a keeper in terms of practitioners?
I think, so you get two attitudes normally. You'll get the person that's trying to brush off somebody who says, oh, this is not my expertise, and just wants to put their head in the sand and just move on. And then you'll get someone who's really there for you, but is saying, this isn't my expertise, but I'm here for you and I'll help guide you all the way back and forth. So they're really like the middleman that's trying to help guide you because they can make it more simple for you to understand and interpret maybe what the specialist has sort of said, as well as, like I was saying before, it might not be just one symptom, and you might have 3 things, 4 things happening at the same time, and it's not one particular disease or illness or chronic illness that's causing all of them. So sometimes what happens is patients will put it all into the one basket. Oh, I'm experiencing this because I have chronic fatigue. And you sit there thinking, well, not really, because you might be experiencing it because you're becoming a diabetic at the same time. So yes, you're feeling tired and you might have chronic fatigue, but you might also be having other issues going on. And so therefore that can happen a lot of the time. People will just go down this one trail like, yep, found the reason I'm feeling all this stuff. And so therefore they let go of the practitioner that was helping them sort of discover that. And in the meantime, they're still just, I suppose the outcome or the downside is they don't experience the best health that they could be experiencing, and in fact end up disadvantaging themselves by doing that. If they just keep looking for a one answer that fits all, that's, our bodies don't do that. We're filled with lots of biochemistry that's doing lots and lots of different things and some major systems. And often what happens is while the person's concentrating on their prostate cancer issue that might take 15 to 20 years to, a lot of time
Progress.
People aren't dying of prostate cancer. They're dying of other things. And in the meantime, they've got a blocked artery that they could have cleared, and they've got other things that are going on in their body and they're thinking they're feeling unwell because of this prostate issue, but actually it's something else. And I think, that's why I'm saying if people are just aware of their health and they're open to, looking at their health, and men tend to be really bad in this sort of thing. And I hate to generalise, but I do sort of see this. Men will brush aside a lot of stuff. So they come to you and really you think, okay, you're coming to me with these symptoms, but really you're now trying to, as I'm walking you through stuff, and they might have really bad lifestyle habits, while you're trying to sort of walk me through this, and we're sort of going, okay, now this is what's going on. I can see what's going on here. Can you see how you not protecting your back and not doing certain things has caused a lot of inflammation, and as a result it's causing, maybe poor sleep and a weight gain and a whole heap of other things that could be happening. Some of the guys will just be happy with, oh yeah, but my mate, I just got to get some sleep and I've just got to toughen up. They see it like a toughening up thing because most of my mates are in the same position and they're doing fine. So what I'll do is I'll just drink a little bit less beer and I'll start doing a little bit of exercise and that'll solve everything. And in the meantime, not investigating maybe where is their heart, how's their cardiovascular system going, what was their family history, were there strokes in the family, is it something we can prevent, is it something that, they're feeling breathless because their arteries are blocking up, have they got high blood pressure, did they, they just wait usually until it's really serious and they're in hospital.
It made me think of two things when you said that. One was what we were talking about the other day, about sort of the problem with averages, optimal health versus kind of average health. A lot of people are just looking to get to that kind of like, nothing's wrong at the moment, I'm okay. But also how that relates to having an ongoing practitioner. Like I was talking to some people the other day about how hard it is to find, one GP to look after you. You'll go to one medical centre, but you've got 10 different GPs that you've seen in a 3-year period. How important do you think having an ongoing relationship with, once you find that practitioner who's integrative, whether it's, on the natural medicine side or on the more conventional medicine side, how important do you think that is in terms of what you're talking about, and also in terms of optimum health?
I think if you can, if you're comfortable with a GP or an alternative and complementary medicine person that you've known for a really long time, they tend to know your history, so they know how you handle situations, they know your mental health around particular situations, they know your family, they know what you've gone through, and it gives them that it gives them a different perspective on how to help you in the future. If you go to somebody that's new, it's not that they can't help you, but they don't have that particular history, so therefore they might sort of think, oh no, that's okay, this is how we're going to deal with it. And they might not think, oh, hang on, but the last time we had this happen, this wasn't the best approach. This other way that actually got the better outcome was the better approach. So therefore, this is the way we have to work with this particular patient because we get to a better outcome faster. So the history is actually really good. Also, like I know with some patients that I've been dealing with for 17 years, I know their bodies really well. So when they come to me, I already know the best way to sort of help them because I know how resilient they are or maybe how delicate they are around situations. I know what scares them. I know what doesn't scare them. I know what people to recommend to them because I know their personalities better. So it sort of helps from that perspective as well. But sometimes on the flip side of that, you might have not found a great practitioner and you're sticking with somebody who's got this history. And therefore, instead of getting fresh eyes and someone that you think, oh, whoa, you know, this person's told me more in that one sitting than that other person told me over 6 years. There's that as well. So it's more about looking at what's worked, what's made you get really good outcomes in the past, looking at their life as well. You know, a lot of the time if someone's a good practitioner and they really are somebody who is self-aware and, you know, really believes in what they are teaching, they will tend to live their life that way as well. So they will tend to be quite fit and healthy, or at least, you know, patient and kind and a good listener. You know, that sort of thing. They tend to be like that. And so you can see, oh, right, this is actually working. What you're advising actually works. So I think that helps as well. But, yeah, I just think it's a tricky one, because you can just be... I have that impatience too, where they say, oh, yeah, I've seen this person for 20 years. And, you know, I just... If they say this, then that's what I'm going to go by. And actually it's worked against them instead of for them. So it is tricky.
So do you think there's a role that intuition plays in that as well? Do you think, you know, if you're feeling like, oh, that doesn't sit right with me, is that a sign that you need to maybe just go and have a chat with someone else and get a second opinion?
Yeah, I would. I think that's important. I don't think it might necessarily mean anything, because the thing is it can, and I know with me it has, but it will depend on how well you know yourself as well. So if you're someone that's, you know, really in tune with yourself, then your intuition could really help you. If you're someone that's not, and you've just heard a whole heap of bad stories, so that when you go and actually speak to a specialist, you think, oh, yeah, you know, you've already gone with preconceptions. You know, I know what you're on about. You've just mentioned that word, and everybody else that mentioned that word, this is what it means. So it just really depends on the situation. But I think if your intuition is telling you anything other than I feel really comfortable, then you need to get a second opinion. The second opinion might be exactly the same, and that's great if that sort of marries up, because then you think, oh, okay, now I better sort of stand up and listen and pay attention here. But I think in those cases, definitely get a second opinion.
Right back at the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about how patients, if they have knowledge about their health, it's important that they share it. You know, they may not know, but if they do know, it's really important that they let their practitioner know, because it can guide them in, you know, sort of one direction or the other. Have you seen cases where maybe patients know about, you know, a condition they have, but they're embarrassed or they're scared to share it, or maybe they share it with you, but then they don't share it with someone else?
Definitely. You know, some people might have HIV and they're not disclosing that because they think they're going to be judged a certain way. Or they take drugs and they're not disclosing that because, you know, they like think they're illicit drugs, yeah. Right? And things like that. So from the point of view of a practitioner, we're not really there to judge. We're there to make some decisions on a particular situation that we see at hand, and the best way and the best approach to try and help the to try and help the patient have the best outcome. And so the more we know, especially for interactions. For instance, someone might not tell a practitioner that they're on an antidepressant, and then they go and see a naturopath who might go and give them St. John's wort. Now that is not recommended if someone's taking an antidepressant, but they might be embarrassed about taking an antidepressant because when they were growing up, that meant that they were a crazy person.
Right, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's whatever they're bringing to the table. If they don't disclose certain things, it actually can be harmful for them. As well as, you know, if someone's on the pill, and they might be presenting with like a depression, for instance, but they're 16 years old. And so they don't want their practitioner to tell their mum they think that's what's going to happen, that they're on the pill. So the person, again, goes and prescribes maybe some St. John's wort, which isn't supposed to be taken when you're on the pill. So it's more about the more the person's being open. It's not about a judgment. It's about, okay, how do I help them and what shouldn't I or should I use in this particular scenario? And, the ultimate aim is to feel better and to get help. So the more we can tell the practitioner, and you'll probably find that when you do, they're not going to be judgmental. They're actually just going to be understanding a lot of the time, because you're not the only person that's presenting like this. You're just one of many, many people that are presenting like this.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's like, oh, okay, I can't use these things, so therefore I'm going to go down this path. Or the fact that that person might be on an antidepressant, let's get more into maybe looking at, are they seeing a counsellor? Is that being taken care of? And it helps us, know that person better. So it's just more out of fear. People often have fear around practitioners and doctors, and, blood pressure tends to go up around doctors and all that sort of stuff, that white coat scenario. But it's, I think, if you can just start by getting a really good communication, or find a practitioner that you feel really at home with and trustworthy with, or you can trust them, then you're probably going to find all these other problems don't tend to happen, because you'll open up and you'll feel, accepted and validated, and you'll be able to get the most out of that situation.
Elizabeth, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure.